All right, what's going on, everybody? It's KG Zelzinski bringing you everything sports, everything Buffalo. Welcome back to Buffalo Sports Insider. I'm joined here with Brandon Berry for the first time. Welcome, Brandon Berry. Well, second time. I mean, first time just by yourself, being on the show. I mean, good for you. Good to have you here.
I'm glad to be here.
Good to hear it. Good to hear it. We're also obviously with Colton Tankowitz, Justin Cejak. You know me, love them. Let's kick things off today by starting with the UB Bulls picking up their first win. I mean, who would have thought that the Bulls would win a game this season? Because, wow, they've looked like a different team these past 4 games. But they did win their game versus Akron, 13-10 in overtime. You had Devin Grant coming out and blocking a big field goal.
He's been a stud all year for them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so far. I remember
we've talked about him a few times.
Exactly. We've had Kayla on the show, and she was talking about Devin Grant. I think, if I'm not wrong, I think he got ejected the 1 week for a tough hit. But so he's been around.
We like the tenacity
a little bit, but yeah, no. Again, I mean, hey, you got to get it done. As some people will throw a little asterisk next to the win. What are your thoughts about the Bulls win this week?
I guess our first win couldn't have come at a better time, right? First week of MAC play against Akron. So, I mean, every win counts. You're 1-4, but you got to start stacking here at some point, right?
I mean, Akron is a historically bad program. Like
Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse program, if you will. So I'm glad that UB was able to go to Disneyland this weekend.
Yeah, I like that.
Absolutely. I know the thing is, like, this is their I mean, they were 0-4 with Coach Mo, Coach the Linguist. And again, just a surprising start to the season. But yeah, against now that conference play is going up, it's good to see them finally get a win, rally back a little bit. But what's the future look like for them? Because I know next up they're playing Central Michigan.
Yeah.
What does that? Do they carry this over? Or?
They're going to have to keep building momentum because at this point, I mean, you look at it, the MAC is very bad. They're in 3rd place in the MAC when they're 1-4 because they're 1-0 in the conference play. But still, you got to start stacking victories here. And they do have some guys. It's not like they have every bad player, right? The connection the entire season has been Cole Snyder to Cole Harrity, Cole times 2, if you will.
Right.
And they actually set up that game-winning field goal. If you look back at it, he kind of dumped it off and got some yards after the catch. And then the UB defense makes a stop. And I actually thought the defense probably played one of their best games of the year. They had the linebacker, Red Murdoch, with 2 sacks. Yeah. Anytime you get more than 1 sack in a game, you're impressive. And then the senior Max Michel recovers the Akron fumble. Just capitalizing off the turnovers, that helps them win the game.
Exactly. And again, there was some nervousness, I know, when Akron does get that first touchdown as well, because it's the way the Bulls season has gone so far is lose the first half, and then it's a big question mark for the second half. Yeah. So for them to be able to kind of keep up with Akron going into the second half and capitalize on is big. And I know you're talking about Cole Snyder. And I think a lot of the conversation was their losses so far haven't been Cole Snyder's fault.
He didn't turn the ball over.
Exactly.
That's the biggest thing you can do is not turn the ball over, and that's how they won the game.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's switch up gears here and let's start talking about these Buffalo Sabres. I know of course we don't do a game or a show rather every day, so let's talk about the preseason so far.
Sure.
Where let's see, this would be going back to the Leafs game on Wednesday, September 27th. They lost 2-5 to the Maple Leafs, and for some was a shocker because they came out looking so good in the first 2 games of the preseason, and then again this one comes around and people are scratching their heads a little bit. Obviously, it's preseason; we're not going to make a huge deal out of these losses, but one player that wasn't there to note is Zach Benson, who's kind of been a huge key factor to the game so far.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really weigh too heavily on wins and losses in preseason. I guess as a Sabres fan growing up, probably not wins and losses too much in general.
Right.
But Zach Benson he's a point per game player. And at first, I mean, I think I might even said it last week. Like, I don't expect him to, make the roster with the contract, but it's really tough to argue against that right now.
Oh, yeah. He's making his case.
Exactly.
And it's almost like before it was like, well, where do you fit him in? 4th line, wherever you can, because he's looked fantastic. He didn't have a great back check or none for his defense, obviously, as a junior, but he has been so tenacious on offense in his forecheck and his aggressiveness as a small guy. So he might crack, that roster. I didn't think he would.
Maybe.
I mean, yeah, the argument is if he doesn't crack the roster, do we see Brandon Byro take that last spot? Because he's been consistent.
He has been. That's true.
But yeah, obviously going back to the Sabres-Leaf game, you miss Benson, and it's noticeable. And that's kind of your biggest takeaway, right? When a player leaves the roster for whatever it may be, injury, whatever you may have it, if there's a noticeable gap, that player means a lot. And that's kind of what we saw in the Leafs. The other big takeaway I had from the Leafs game is I don't know if UPL is it.
You know what? I was just about to ask too, Brandon. I mean, so you watched Sabres, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, UPL last season, what do you think about them? I mean, compared with he was switching off with Anderson a lot. Do you think UPL did his job as a goalie? Do you think he performed?
I think so. I just think that with any team, there has to be a certain amount of time you can give someone to gel with the team, and it's frustrating at times. But
I will say the defense didn't do him any favors.
No. And so because of that, you gotta let him gel a little bit.
Exactly. I'm glad you brought up the defense too, because Owen Power had a -3 rating that game, and again, there was just I know there was the shorthanded goal by Max Domi where we were just watching it.
That was brutal,
and it was just there was such a lack of effort to try to get back and stop that one. I think a lot of the criticism from last season obviously was on the defense, but it was just a breakdown in defense and just leaving the goalie out to dry. So again, those 3 goals that went against UPL or 3, and then obviously 1 and then an empty net against UPL. I think at least that one was not his fault.
Another thing that I saw in that game in the second period, kind of early on, was did you guys see when Kisakov passed open the easiest layup goal of all time?
Mm-hmm.
He's right next to the net and he makes an extra pass. What are you doing?
Yeah,
what are you doing? That's a stooge move. I don't understand that one. And then that leads to the breakaway shorthanded goal, whatever. So I don't know. That was a boneheaded play to me, almost like a Shaq in a fool moment.
Yeah.
And then Yoki gets one at the end of the second, but then from there on it's just an avalanche and it goes downhill.
Exactly. And it's interesting to note too. I mean, this was played in craft, what do they call it? Craft hockey?
Yeah, it was
something like that. So
a small venue.
It looked like a legitimate barn.
Exactly. And that's the funny thing about it is that obviously that's in Ontario. You're going to have so many Leafs fans there, but I don't know if do you think that was a factor in the game as well, them being away and all that, or
maybe uncomfortable area? Who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care. It's preseason.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Especially, I don't care. I don't care, especially because of the ensuing game.
Yeah, exactly.
They made up for it.
I mean, which one are we talking about? Because the next one up that I have.
I'm talking about the Blue Jackets game.
Oh, we can get to that later. The Penguins game.
Yeah.
Before that, though, I did want to dive into a little bit because there were flashes that they had. You had Eric Comrie playing as well. He got 27 for 29. Wasn't too bad. He actually had 2 penalty minutes as well. So, but he's a dog, But I felt like a lot of that game versus Pittsburgh. I mean, O'Connor on their team, I think Devin O'Connor, just played lights out. I mean, 2 goals, 5 shots. He was all over the ice making plays. So,
quote Baker Mayfield, he woke up feeling dangerous.
Exactly, woke up feeling dangerous. He was putting it forward, but I felt like for this game it was just tough on the Sabres. I felt like there wasn't a whole lot that they were doing to get back in the game. I think they score first in that game. That I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
Yeah, so they again, it just felt like they never had full control. And I feel like when we're talking about how the Sabres have played, they have been in the driver's seat, and this one just felt so different.
Yeah, maybe just like a little slump there, a little 2-game slump.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, again, that's warranted. I feel like when you're swapping out players, you're trying new things, and again, it's
everything's experimental in the preseason. Mm-hmm. That's what you have to take in the factor there.
Exactly. So again, Penguins game, not much to really focus on there, but let's get into that Blue Jackets game because wow, I'm sitting on my phone at work, right, and I'm looking, and I'm like, okay, Sabres down 3-0, whatever. Put it back in the pocket, and then. Right? Oh, Jeff Skinner's.
I love Jeff Skinner. Jeff Skinner.
Yeah, exactly.
As a person, as a player, he embodies Buffalo, and he looked great against the Blue Jackets.
Absolutely. Exactly. These are the guys that you want. That you want to see perform and be consistent. I mean, again, you have Skinner, 2 goals, 4 shots.
2 goals. Well, I mean, what happened? Do you think he's jealous that Travis Kelce has Taylor Swift?
I mean, maybe. There's a conversation.
All right, I know that was my one and only Taylor Swift joke of the year.
No.
I don't
They
know.
talked about that every time they could yesterday. They talked about it.
Oh,
right.
my goodness. Shout out, Chris Collinsworth to go.
All right.
Yeah, all right.
I love what I've seen from obviously Thompson, Skinner.
Yeah.
Tuck was didn't play the first couple, but
Right.
all the players that should look good have looked good.
Mhm.
I think defensively it's tough to judge in the preseason just because
Yeah.
they're going against. They might be a little extra aggressive trying to.
Sure.
And they are aggressive. Like Darlene can be aggressive.
Oh, yeah.
And he's been prone to mistakes. That has
Yeah.
been his biggest knock. But he
Right.
also makes plays. It's almost like Josh Allen. He makes
Right.
plays where you're like, "Wow, that was awesome." You're like, "Wow, like that could have been awesome, but
Right.
it ended up horribly
Sure.
bad." So it's just one of those. The highs are highs and the lows are lows.
Yeah, absolutely.
With Darlene and a lot of the D staff. But I also really like Ryan Johnson so far.
I do too. I love Ryan Johnson.
I think
Yeah.
he's looked like a stud, like a third line,
I agree.
pair who can go out there and
Yep.
kill penalties, who can just be strong on defense, which is something that the Sabres haven't just had.
Yeah.
They have someone who's okay on defense, really good on offense,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. But that's like there's a guy who's really strong in his own end.
I know Granato spoke pretty highly of him. He said, obviously, this is a guy who doesn't have much of a resume yet. So he does have to come in and kind of play his butt off, and he has. And Granato has attested to his ability so far. I think that's a good sign for Ryan Johnson.
Absolutely. Well, sticking with the defense here, what's like which six make the roster for you? I mean, obviously, Darlene's a lock, right?
So Power is too. obviously.
Darlene, Power,
Ryan Clifton, right?
Clifton might be. I don't know. That's. I mean,
Are we
like,
saying
you think
roster or like starting lineup?
Let's say starting
Because
line. Let's talk about starting line because I think again you have Dalsey who makes it, OP.
Samuelson?
Sammy. Yeah, when
Yeah.
Sammy and I feel like when Sammy and Dalsey play together, I think it's lights out. Again, that's when Sammy's healthy.
Yep.
Then you can see that. But again, if you throw Ryan Johnson in the mix, does he become a starter?
I think Haru has to fit in there, and
Yeah.
if he doesn't, it's because he's traded. I don't think it's like he just is down in Rochester or whatever. I think it's kind of either it's him or he's gone. And then in the third pairing, I mean,
Eric Johnson.
Eric Johnson has
Yeah.
to be.
And maybe Riley Stillman. He's played well.
Stillman. I think it's just important to have that seventh defenseman. So
Yep.
Stillman, and then maybe Johnson on the outside as a fill-in.
I love that pickup, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A guy that just won the cup 2 years ago. I mean, why not bring him in?
exactly.
For a team that has aspirations. Every team has aspirations for the cup.
Yeah, I love this conversation. We're going to get right back into it after this quick word from AAA. Give us 30 seconds. We'll be right back for you.
You wouldn't do that. So why do you do this? Distracted driving kills an average of 9 people and injures over 1,000 every day in America. Put down your phone. Lives depend on it. Don't drive intoxicated. Don't drive intoxicated. A sobering message from AAA.
All right, hello and welcome back to Buffalo Sports Insider. We're going to continue with this conversation about the Sabres because, again, I mean, just that Blue Jackets game, so amazing. One part I want to talk about, I mean, obviously the offense really stepped up here.
Yep.
3 goals on the power play.
Yeah.
That's a statement. I mean, again, just to be able to capitalize on those things. I mean, the power play unit just showed out.
And they weren't all goals by Victor Olofsson.
Exactly.
That's where the guy makes a killing. But
Yeah.
it was good to see different guys getting involved. And I love what Granato has done on the power play, and it's going to continue to be great. It'll be top 5 or 6 the entire season.
I think so, too.
I'd like to think. But what about the penalty kill? What are we doing? Down on the opposite side of the man advantage. How are we doing or putting ourselves in a position not to put Levi in a bad spot? They did that. I mean, they really stood on their heads for him last year, or tried to a lot better than they did with Comrie or UPL,
Right.
which was awesome to see. But how do you do that for 82 games?
Yeah,
sure.
You can't get away with that for 5 or 6.
Exactly. I mean, consistency is like the biggest conversation, especially in the hockey season as well, because you have 82 games. Yeah. I mean, that, like Devin Levi, people brought that up too. Like he's looked amazing, but can you keep that up in an NHL schedule? So I agree with you. Again, when you're looking at that kind of scope, that's super important.
Sure.
But I mean, like there's other components too. I know Oposo, man. Let's talk about Grandpa Oki.
3 assists.
Exactly. 3 assists. I mean, dude was making plays. Again, mind you, he is a veteran and he's on a
old
one-year
is he now?
contract. That's a good question. We'll look it up.
He's gonna be well into his 30s, right? And he's still producing?
Something like that. Yeah.
I'd be careful with the word produce.
Well, yeah, but I mean, a steady player and not
35.
and a good mentor.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you go.
But I think he's in a great spot. He's still a leader. Again, he's another guy who embodies Buffalo. He loves the city. His story's been great. Great in terms of dealing with adversity. He's dealt with a lot. And so it's kind of cool to see him mesh with all these younger players. Now even younger players. Like imagine you got a 35-year-old with an 18-year-ld and it works.
Yeah.
And he can just kind of sit there and just feed the puck. To this point in his career, he's
him, Eric Johnson, and Zemgus are going to be so valuable to this team, I think.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, when we talk about what that might look like in maybe a year or two or so, because again, you have both Zemgus and Okposo on one-year contracts.
Yeah.
Like, do they stay longer than that? Because I feel like they're on their way. I mean, I think Tuck definitely replaces Okposo as captain once he is out.
Over Darlene.
I
would have said that like beginning of last year. I feel like Darlene made huge strides as a leader. Like that's a guy like Bernardo came.
Yeah, I won't disagree with you on that. Yeah.
So I just think it's closer than I thought a year ago.
Yeah.
But I'm just intrigued to kind of see like where Tage falls in, where the assistant goes. I wonder if that's like an Eric Johnson position with them. But I'd like to see Gergensen be able to stay healthy because he is a key component to that penalty kill and face-offs. He's been great over his career.
Yeah.
So I would just be intrigued to kind of see how he plays and even if Posa plays, if they can stay healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I mean, just really good stuff. I mean, last thing I kind of wanted to bring up as well was between Benson and Thompson having a pretty good game as well. I mean, 2 assists on Thompson, 3 shots for him, and then Benson with a goal and assist and 4 shots. Like he's staying. I mean, we already kind of went over the fact that he's in the conversation to make the final cut. So
I know you like to take time with these kind of things, but I mean, you got to acknowledge talent when talent is talent.
Exactly. And I mean, we got a couple more games coming up as well. One on Wednesday, one on Friday, I think.
Yeah, I think the 6th or something, right?
Something like that. Yeah, the October 4th and October 6th for sure. They will be playing the Blue Jackets and the Penguins. Penguins at home to close out their preseason, and then we get into the first game of the Sabre season, the home opener versus the Rangers.
I'm so excited.
On October 12th. That's going to be so great. And,
hopefully, we will have live coverage for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we will keep you posted on everything. As we mentioned before, follow our social media because then you can stay up to date on everything sports, everything Buffalo. But I do want to shift in to our Bills segment because, oh my God, what a win. But before we start talking and going on forever about this, Justin Cejak did a great stand-up about it. So take a second and we'll look at this video.
Absolute statement this past Sunday against the Miami Dolphins. Controlling the entire game, they would eventually win the game 48-20. Buffalo's favorite duo, Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, were a massive reason why the Bills were able to come away with a convincing win. Allen threw for 320 passing yards and 4 passing touchdowns, while also adding a rushing touchdown to his already impressive stat line in the fourth quarter. Meanwhile, Stephon Diggs was on the receiving end of Josh Allen's passes more times than not, hauling in 6 receptions for 120 yards and 3 receiving touchdowns, including a spectacular 55-yard catch where he would break tackles and run down the sideline to the end zone. The Bills' defense was able to stifle that Miami Dolphins offense, silencing some of the hype, allowing only 20 total points to a team that, prior to this game, was averaging 43 points a game. Buffalo's defensive line absolutely dominated this game. They were able to bring down Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa a total of 4 times, 2 of which coming from defensive end Gregory Rousseau. The unit caused constant pressure all night, rattling Tagovailoa, which led to a third-quarter interception from Bills safety Micah Hyde. Though the win came in dominating fashion, the Bills took a massive hit to their secondary when their star quarterback Tre'Davious White went down to an injury late in the third quarter. White is speculated to have ruptured his Achilles and will miss significant time. Just a terrible thing for a guy who has worked so hard to come back to the field after suffering a previous major injury. Next, the Bills will pack their bags for London, where they will take on Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Kickoff is set for 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time this coming Sunday. For Buffalo Sports Insider, I'm Justin Cejak. Enjoy your day, folks.
All right, well done. Well done. But you look like a natural up there. Great. So yeah, I mean, wow, what a win over the Dolphins, who hung 70 over the Broncos last week. I mean, again, the narrative coming into this game is so interesting because you have Dolphins with an unstoppable offense and the Bills with an unmovable defense. So it's like, again, that matchup on paper coming in is just such a big question mark for everybody because it's like, which way could it go? And obviously it went the way of the Bills, who just super dominant. I mean, Justin, walk me through kind of how the first half went. I mean, even the first quarter, because the first quarter was a shootout.
I mean, obviously to start the game, both teams brought their A game, right? I mean, we went tick for tack. What was it, 14-14?
And then 5 possessions.
Yes.
First 5. Yeah, I mean, and we knew off rip that both teams were going to have a scripted plan. Both of them went down with ease. It was about the rest of the game and how each coach really responded to the others. Move kind of like a chess game. And honest to God, guys, I was very surprised that Sean McDermott kind of neutralized that Miami offense.
I think that's the best game I've seen Sean McDermott coach in, and a decent amount of time. So I was very impressed because Mike McDaniel's no slouch.
Right.
No, listen, they brought Miami down to earth, but at the same time, I think we should also too realize that the Denver defense is terrible.
Well,
terrible.
Yeah.
So I think like little levity to that situation. There's like horrible Denver, but I think we put them rightly in their place. I think we did a good job.
Exactly. Do want to say as well, don't forget the stat line coming in about Tyreek Hill, who has been held under about, I think, 70 yards 6 times before this. Now make it 7. He had 58 yards yesterday. 3 for 58. Like, oh my goodness. Like, again, I mean, I hyped that whole matchup up coming in last week where I was just like, okay, be careful of Tyreek Hill. Like, this guy's going to be unstoppable. I mean, they did their job.
That was one of my main notes, right? Limit the big plays and make sure you make tackles in open space. And the Bills did just that. Like, Hill and Waddle, they combined for 7 receptions and 104 yards. There's some games where we see these guys combine for 300 yards. 7 receptions for 104. Outside of the Devon Achane run, there was nothing big. There was nothing game tilting for the Dolphins. I was so impressed. I'm with you. I think this was one of Sean McDermott's best coach games of his entire career.
So Tyreek Hill went out and said they just couldn't figure out the cover 2. They would get passed off by Trey White or Benford, and then it was Hyde or Poyer taking him from there and just riding him out.
Right.
But I think outside of that, Bernard and Milano did such a good job in that intermediate part of the field where you see Tyreek. I mean, the week before against the Broncos, Tyreek catches 120 yards downfield and just beats the guy to the edge scores. That's where Waddle leads too. I mean, it was just a great athletic performance by both linebackers.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I mean, I was just going to add to that. Like, how is it possible for Matt Milano to get even better this year? Like, I know, obviously players get better. It's just like he almost seemed at the peak last year, and you're just like, but now he
is in on every single play.
He's even better. Yeah, exactly. He's at the top of the stat list. 10 total tackles, 8 solo yesterday.
Super impressive.
And then the way you break cover 2 is with the run game, right? You've got 2 high safeties. You can't do that against Daquan Jones and Ed Oliver. These guys are red hot. I know we had a conversation earlier in the year where I was like, Daquan Jones may be a top 3 1 tech. He's playing like it right now. He's playing
I think I gave you some slack for that. So
he is playing great. Listen, I'm the number 1 Daquan Jones fan in Western New York. I can promise you. Please re-sign this guy because, I mean, this is the best defensive line I've seen since maybe 2012.
Exactly. Just super disruptive.
Yeah, and I think right now the Bills are working together like it's just as equal components across the board.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's just like you said, cover 2, the limit. I mean, there's ways to beat it, but the run game is the number 1. You're not running the ball down 20 points. And if the offense is scoring points, how much can you run the ball? And so it's the same thing for Josh Allen. And I mean, I'm not going to be the
co-owner of the Miami Dolphins.
The co-owner of the Miami Dolphins. And right now, front runner for MVP, at least in my head.
Unbelievable.
Most platforms have him as the current favorite.
And he should be.
Or if he's not, he's tied with Tua. And I don't know how you put him.
I mean, that's another conversation. CMC's been unreal.
He's been incredible. But the past 3 games, and it doesn't show up on paper. It does because his passing rate right now, if the season ended today, would be the second highest of his career. Outside of the 2020 season, that almost won him an MVP. But he has looked so good, and this is the lowest amount he's been pressured in his career.
Yeah.
And this is also the lowest drop percentage his receivers have gave him in his entire career.
Mm-hmm.
So those two together, Diggs has looked.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe the best he has in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
And Davis has looked great as well.
Yeah.
We gave Davis some slack after week 1 for just being invisible.
Right.
And he scored the last couple of weeks. He's looked good on those
3 weeks in a row.
Right? Yeah, is it 3 weeks?
3 weeks in a row with Sunday.
And Kincaid hasn't gotten as much work as I would have thought,
But he's
early on.
I want to stay on
exactly. He's moving.
I want to stay on Kincaid for a second because I've got some notes about him. It really doesn't seem like he's featured in this offense, not just yet. He's a consistent chain mover, and the stat I have here, he has the most receptions by a rookie tight end from weeks 1 through 4 in the last decade. He's tied for third with Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts caught 1,000 yards, had 1,000 yards in his rookie year, and he's on pace. He's on pace for 64 receptions, which would put him 5th most by a rookie ever. And this guy's barely seeing the ball like other teams may feature a tight end. That just goes to show you the versatility that the Bills offense have. They don't have to feature for him to be successful.
Are you saying 5th ever or 5th among tight ends ever?
Tight ends.
Okay.
I was going to say.
Tight ends. Whoa.
I was making popcorn.
Yeah, well, Dalton Kincaid's an interesting conversation to have because you look at the way that the Detroit Lions are using Sam Laporta.
He's number 1, by the way.
Exactly.
In that one
Who is
ever,
number 1? Yeah.
Ever.
So it's, I mean, that is unreal. I feel like that's the thought that a lot of people had with Ken Dorsey and Dalton Kincaid about how they would use him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely been a little unexpected. But again, I feel like with this game, he's been moving there. And I think as we go throughout the season, people are going to adapt and keep looking at what the Bills have been doing. And that's how they'll start to use Kincaid more.
And we also, I mean, I'd argue we've seen more of Kincaid than Dawson Knox. Dawson Knox had 1 catch.
We did yesterday, yeah, for sure.
He had 1 catch yesterday.
Which was pretty crazy.
It was impressive.
It was impressive.
It was impressive, but I mean, I love Dawson Knox and I love who he is for the Bills.
Me too.
$72 million for 1 catch a game.
yeah, exactly.
Don't do that.
That's what I'm saying.
Great blocker, though.
Need a
Great
great blocker.
So I think it's everyone coming into the season was like, oh, Kincaid's going to be it.
Mhm.
Knox has been reliable,
Mm-hmm.
but the routes they're putting both your tight ends on, they're not downfield. They're short
Yeah.
routes towards the flats, and right now they're just kind of working as chain movers,
Yeah.
which allows Diggs to get deeper. I think he's at the longest yards per catch of his career. I might be wrong. Check me on it, but he's done that, and it allows Davis to find the outside,
Absolutely.
where he does his best work. So I think that
Big
they're
play game.
using them correctly, maybe just not as much as you like to see.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up things as well because I mean, wow, 3 touchdowns yesterday
This
is
is
something.
crazy.
And I mean, we had a
On 6
conversation
receptions.
about exactly, yeah, and we had a conversation about this earlier. That is he on the path to like being a Wall of Famer?
Yeah,
'Cause, I mean,
I
I think
tweeted
he's
this
already got
out a couple of days ago, and I got some yes, no,
Mhm.
but what is he? He's 6 all time in Bills receiving yards. I think he
I
passed
think so.
a couple, and
Mhm.
he's on pace to be slotted in by maybe 4 by the end of the year.
Oh yeah.
So 2 more years. With
Me
Buffalo.
personally, I've already got him there.
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
was,
my opinion.
I mean, I think next one to go up might be like a Kyle Williams or whatever.
Yeah.
But down the road in the new stadium, Stephon Diggs' name would look really good.
Mhm.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm the whole stadium thing too. New stadium. I'm excited to see them play next week. I know this is a different conversation, but with next week with the Jags again, our stadium modeled a lot after Tottenham Hotspurs that they're going to be playing.
It's a great
So
play, yeah.
it'll be cool to kind of see them in that stadium and see what it will look like, what the experience will be
Yeah,
like.
with the home field advantage.
Exactly, home field advantage. However,
It's so tough.
however much you can
Because
say
you
that.
lose a home game and then you
Right.
play against the Jags who are
Yeah.
going to be comfortable there. They've been there for a week.
That's so stupid. You know, they're only 4.5-point favorites.
The
Yeah,
Bills,
Yes.
Against the
they, I
Jags,
think they always struggle against the
dropping games to
Jags and
Texans.
Maybe.
Whatever. This
I
is
don't
a
know.
conversation for next week. Or for,
We'll
Wednesday.
get
I
after
think
this Wednesday.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, when we do preview this game. Let's head into kind of a talk about some unsung heroes. I feel like on the Bills,
Special teams.
special teams, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, Bills care about their special teams guys, and it shows. Like when you have players like Saron Neal and Tyler Matakevich doing their job. I mean, They are unstoppable. I mean, I really, seriously, again, it's not something that a lot of casual fans will really notice, but I mean, Siran Neal's just been like
Steady Eddie.
so steady. Yeah, exactly. Steady Eddie.
And we don't even have Justin Shorter, who's going to be a great gunner when he comes back from IR.
That's true. I love Siran Neal and that he understands his role.
He does.
It's like a Matthew Slater 2.0. And, if he had to fill in as a safety or corner, that's a different thing. But he loves to just go out there and know that he gets to hit someone.
Yeah.
That is so awesome to me. And
oftentimes he does.
League, and he does. And he always, it feels like he's in on a tackle. He's in on a big hit.
Yep.
And then Tyler Bass.
Yeah. Unreal.
We got to have a conversation about Tyler Bass.
So, yeah, let's talk about it because Tyler Bass right now, 100% of field goals made.
Yeah, not
100%
of
Yeah. So, and then, I mean, long as 54, like he's just seriously unreal. I know, who was I? It was Eric Wood. Eric Wood on One Bills Live today saying about like that he's writing in his notes just to keep up with the game or whatever, and that he's already writing field goal before Tyler Bass is good. And it's 53 yards. You know what I mean? Like it's just he's so calm when kicking. He's so reliable. I think is the biggest word to use.
That's one of the best finds that McDermott and Bean have had over time. Exactly. Georgia Southern, you got to go deep for Georgia Southern.
Yeah, true. Yeah, absolutely. So again, shout out to special team because I think that they have been so underrated, so solid. Even Sam Martin in the conversation a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have besides week one, we don't have to punt a lot. But I mean, when we do, yeah, exactly. When we do, I mean, Sam Martin's reliable, get older. All that. So let's go into our. I know we talked about the D line as well a little bit. Let's expand on it a little bit more because I know Daquan Jones has been great. Let's talk about Greg Rousseau, man.
Yeah. Well, and I want to talk about that case, AJ Epinesa.
Or Leonard Floyd. I mean,
pick one. Oh my God, the whole defensive line is playing good. And I love it.
I'm just saying. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
we'll just start naming them all.
Right. Exactly.
If you want to break it down into two separate components, I think Rousseau's done such a good job of just being in the backfield. He's so fast on the line of scrimmage, and he's so big. Yeah. And Epinesa has been so smart. I don't know how many. Yeah, the nuts. The pass has been down. He had a pick off of it just 2 weeks ago. So they're playing smart football.
That's instinctual.
That's something. How do we not cover the length of Rousseau and Epinesa before a team that gets the ball out?
Well, I got to show. I wish we had the picture for Robert. Well, I got to show my mom the picture.
I want to go back to the defense for 1 second because a stat just popped up on Twitter that I saw. And but before this week, Tua threw to his first read 80.2% of times against the Bills, 57.1. A lot of that has to do, the cover two plays a lot shorter. Linebackers did a great job, but if you have defensive linemen who are in those passing lanes, and Tua is not a huge guy, like that,
tough to get over
a lot.
Right.
And Greg Rousseau is a huge guy. Yeah. And Epinesa is not small either. And Daquan Jones is a monster. So, I wonder how much just that alone had to do with it. Yeah. Because they were big. They were conservative. It doesn't show up because 5 sacks doesn't sound conservative.
Right.
But it's not like they're sending pressure. It's just those guys are playing such smart football up front.
I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, they've been unreal. It's going to be so much fun to continue watching. This season. Just stay consistent.
I love taking victory lap. You don't understand.
Yeah.
There was and this is more than my James Cook take. There were so many people absolutely livid when the Bills re-signed Ed Oliver.
Oh yeah,
he's outplaying that contract,
and he said he was going to.
People wanted him gone for something else.
Ed Oliver, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. That's
I see you, DeQuan Jones. I love the big guys, man.
Love to go. Maybe with DeQuan Jones on here.
Please come on the show. Yeah, exactly. Please come on the show.
So before we move into our last topic, I did want to mention Ken Dorsey as well because I felt like that was one of the best games he's ever called. It was just solid. I felt like he just had their defense just run so well.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to throw in the fact that the Dolphins probably the bottom 6 or 7 defense. That gets hidden up because they put up so many points against Denver. And I thought that he did call a really good game. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I kind of brought up earlier, the tight ends are the chain movers. And Diggs is kind of able to just work one-on-one. Right. So he's not always, he didn't see that many targets last game. And you're always like, oh, they can feed him more. And they can. Right. But when he gets open, he's open. And Davis is always working kind of in comparison to Diggs. And I thought it was kind of cool that Diggs in the post game said that he kind of stole one from Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah.
So that was funny to me. But he's, age 29 season. He will be 29 by the end of the year, and he might be playing his best football.
Yeah, he's getting paid right now. Only thing is he's going to be down a lot of money because he's going to $100 for 2 beers.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Okay, so our last topic I want to talk about with the Bills. We want to send out all of our love, thoughts, prayers from Buffalo Sports Insider for Trey White right now because, wow, I know you highlighted it in your stand-up, but to potentially tear your Achilles after tearing your ACL and making this big comeback, it's almost like Tommy Doyle.
Yeah.
Tommy Doyle, who tore his ACL, then tore his other ACL in the preseason. The road to recovery and having to go through that again. You saw it on the field. That meltdown was hard to watch, really hard to watch. So again, all of our love out to him, and talk a little bit more about I feel like he just means so much to this
he's
team.
such a gamer, man. They all are. Obviously, you are if you're in the NFL, but that dude. He has a mile-wide smile on his face all the time. All those commercials that he does, even though you could tell that he just
Academy.
He loves exactly. He loves being around his players. He loves playing the game, and he just loves being on the field. And it hurts so much to see him know immediately. He threw his helmet back, and you're like, oh no, he knew.
And I have the chills right now just because that was being in McDermott's first pick. Mm-hmm. And in his first year, the Bills made the playoffs.
I want you guys to know that may well be the very last game we ever see Hyde, Poyer, and White all play.
That's so sad.
That you know what? Oh man, that really got me.
That sucks.
Again, because we talked about it before on the show how the last time that we saw them all together before Trey White came back, or before this would have been when Hyde came back, would have been Thanksgiving against the Saints a while ago. Mm-hmm. Now, again, just to think about that is crazy because obviously, J-Po on his 1-year contract, and Hyde on his way out. Soon.
What about the bond they have? I don't know if you guys saw him.
He was on the card,
right.
Yeah.
That hurts my feelings so bad, and I think I remember a lot of players talked about it when he tore his ACL. He was in a really, really dark place.
Yeah,
and they had to go get him out of his basement. That breaks my heart, and that's got to be what's going through his head. And
right,
he's throwing his helmet it's all back. You have to go through that rehab process. You're not gearing up for games. You're almost winding down, waiting for surgery. And if I don't know if it's confirmed as an Achilles yet, that would be an entire blessing if he somehow played it. But it's almost looking like that's not going to be the case. So it hurts so bad, and that defense is so tight knit. It's been.
Not just the defense. Just the culture of the Buffalo Bills is everybody's family there. And again, you see it, especially when the DeMar Hamlin situation happened. How everybody comes together like that. You have to imagine the same's happening right now.
Right, and Sean McDermott was emotional on the podium. Yeah, he's not. Last year there was a lot that happened, and that was a lot of emotion. But this is an injury that happens to a lot of people, but you could just tell how much he meant to him. And Deion Dawkins didn't just say hey, prayers up for him. He went out of his way to his wife and his family because Trey White's persona is he's just an all-out guy. He everything he does.
Huge persona.
If it's his brand, if it's the Bills brand, he is 100% all the time, and it just breaks my heart to know that mentally he has to go back.
If I can kind of wrap up this segment, we appreciate everything you do, Trey White. Mm-hmm. We hope you're in good spirits as soon as possible. Yeah. Just a terrible thing, and kind of thinking about one more thing. And I know it's kind of quick to move off, but Kyer Elam, your time is now. Your time is now.
Yeah, that is also true. I know. Yeah, he's been inactive, but time to step up.
Or Jamarcus Ingram, either or.
Could be.
That's true.
There's gonna be a lot of players in there.
Yeah. That'll be really interesting to talk about. Again, we're going to be going for another show this Wednesday, covering the preview for the Jags Bills in London. Going to be exciting. I'm really excited to watch that one. Everybody wake up in your jammies, get your breakfast ready, right? We're going to have some Bills over breakfast. Really excited for it. But again, just join us next Wednesday. Make sure you stay up to date at buffalosportsinsider.com, where you can find all of our social medias, all content, articles that are written by our wonderful MMJs that we have on our team. And again, with the Saber seasons coming up, we're hoping to get out there, produce more content for you. If you got any suggestions for us, throw it out at us because we would love to hear it on our social media. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm KJ Zelzinski, joined with Brandon Barry, Colton Pankowitz, and Justin Cejak. We'll see you guys Wednesday. Have a great one. Take care of yourselves. Bye. That's it.
All right.